the first question is going to be, before teaming became popular, you began working with Gary Miller.
Yep.
Right? So how did that partnership come to be?
So,
Give your blue shirt a tug real quick.
I was going to say,
The tug Nazi.
how's that?
Yeah, okay.
Am I tugged?
Yeah.
you were talking.
Okay. So I came to MassMutual as a sales manager, and Gary Miller had already been in practice for quite a number of years, since I think '86. And he had a business partner who had been in business since '80. And after 20 years in the business, his partner had retired. And what Gary and Pat had done was they had recognized that when they formed a partnership and worked together, they did something unique. They sat in every meeting together all the time. Most people, when they form partnerships, don't do that. They form partnerships to share expenses. They form partnerships to make it easier to have office space, etc. They formed a partnership because they recognized that they had two different talents, and they each brought something to the table. And when they were meeting with clients, they found that their closing ratio went up dramatically. So that is something completely different than 90% of the people even today do, I think. And so when Pat Cunningham retired, Gary went looking out, and he came and found me. And he recognized the talents and skills that I had, and he convinced me to go into practice with him. And so we formed Miller and Sakopoulos Financial Partners, and we formed the partnership for two reasons. One, it was to make sure that I could bring the skill set from the person that just retired. And second, when Pat retired, Gary paid for his buyout, and Gary was his succession plan. And Gary is 20 years older than I am. And so Gary needed a succession plan in place. Gary had the foresight to plan that 18 years in advance to have me come in, and he's purposely looked for somebody who was younger who could continue his practice. So June 1st, 2018, Gary Miller has retired. And as Gary has retired, I am still servicing the same clients that Pat Cunningham brought in 1980. And as far as they're concerned, they've been with the same firm the whole time because there's been some sort of continuity the whole way.
Do you still believe in that philosophy of two?
Really?
Absolutely.
Really sorry.
Yep.
I just realized.
That was excellent.
Yeah, good sound bites.
Getting what
Come on.
Good.
we don't have to.
Oh, like he's like good sound, and he's laughing and looking at you, and I'm like, okay, am I a retard or what?
You have to like ask it
Right.
17 different ways
Oh.
to
See,
get the
when-
right answer.
Right.
So,
Oh.
And
okay.
when you get that response, that's good.
Oh,
You know what I
okay.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, yes, you know, need to keep digging. You
Yes.
Good.
Okay. So I'm just going to ask that kind of that follow-up question about, you said about teaming. Are you
Mhm.
still, because it looks like your partner will be leaving or is left.
He's left.
Are you doing the same thing?
Absolutely. So we have 3 other advisors that work with us, and oddly enough, along the way, we discovered that if we take a veteran agent who is in their middle 60s, early 60s, and we bring them onto our team, that we can help build their succession plan in, and at the same time, we can take over a larger client base. So I have an advisor working for me, Patrick Taylor, who is 20 years younger than I am. Patrick's now been with me he's in his 13th year. So I have that succession plan built in. I have Parth Rana with me as well. And the idea is that if you hire, recruit, train, and teach people how to do what you do over the period of time, by the time I go and retire, we're going to have that continuity set up. And that one big succession plan is what makes us unique and different than other teams that are out there. Other people have 3, 4, 5 partners, but maybe when you leave, you get passed on to a different partnership. But imagine how this worked. Gary Miller and Pat Cunningham worked together for essentially 14 years. When Pat Cunningham retired, everybody said, hey, congratulations, I still have Gary Miller. Gary Miller introduced everybody to James Sakopoulos. James Sakopoulos and Gary Miller have worked together for 18 years. When I told everyone Gary was retiring, they said, hey, congratulations, Gary Miller, I still have James Sakopoulos. They have forgotten about Pat Cunningham. Now that I bring in Patrick Taylor, I bring in Parth Rana, by the time I retire, they can say, hey, congratulations, James, I've had this. So that's a very unique situation because we still meet with all of our clients, 2 advisors at a time.
Very good. Good. I like that. So what was well, you kind of touched on this a little. What was the purpose for your partnership, and what was it ultimately a succession plan for Gary? I know you.
Yeah, it really was ultimately a succession plan for Gary, although he did not explain that to me at the time, but he had the foresight to really plan that out, and along the way, we've now continued and built that plan. But really the main reason was to have a complementary skill set. Gary is exceptionally good at the things that he does, but what he was not good was at presenting to the clients, convincing them to buy, putting the action plans in place. And so what Gary would do is he would partner himself up with somebody who he knew was better than him, who could complement that skill set. And it's a very powerful tool to have two advisors, two financial planners, sitting in one meeting with the client, where you now have a brainstorming of ideas, not only in front of the client, but then behind the scenes when you're building cases for clients.
Good. Do you like that?
Yeah, I love
Okay,
it.
good. Now that Gary's retiring.
Yeah.
Can you describe what that transition has been like and the impact it has on your team and your clients?
So the impact from the clients has been seamless. Business has gone on as usual. When the clients have come in over the past 5 weeks, they have all said, hey, we're so sorry that Gary retired, but tell him I said hello and great and this, that, or the other. From an internal standpoint, it's been seamless. So because we had everything set up jointly, keep in mind that we've been part now of Society 1851, Blue Chip, and everything else. So when we called in, everything was as a collaborative practice. When you have a collaborative practice, I get to call in, I get to give a password, and now I have access to all of my clients, all of Gary's clients, and everybody else is on our team. So that way when somebody leaves, somebody retires, somebody goes on an extended vacation or they get disabled, nothing changes in the practice, and everyone in the team can step in, pick up, and have access to everybody.
Right, so it feels good with your clients. Your clients don't look anywhere else. They know what you have in place.
Not a single one of them, because they've had us for so long and they understand the continuity. And by the way, we set that stage up front. So when we met them, we told them the story of Miller and Sakopoulos. We told them how we started. We told them who Pat Cunningham was. And because we told the story all along the way, they understand that we have a built-in succession plan in place so that they could keep the same firm throughout the rest of their life. And so we are literally doing generation planning. And so while other people are doing financial planning, we're doing generation planning. I'm setting up for the next generation, the next generation, the next generation.
So basically, the name and everything else will just keep on going?
The name will keep on going.
Partnership to the next partnership?
Which probably sounds a little weird that somebody would actually keep Sakopoulos, but it is my name and I really don't have a lot of choice. If it was up to the young guys who are taking over, they would change the name in a second. But as I've explained to them, we've built this brand for 18 years. When you build a brand for 18 years, why would you go in and change it?
That's right. Good.
Although they have various reasons as to why they would do that.
Yeah, well, but if you build a brand for 18 years, why would you're absolutely right.
Well, it's like any other.
Then you have to start all over again.
Well, think about any accounting firm. Think about any CPA firm, right? Those firms do not change their names because a partner retires or even passes away. They keep those firms in place as legacies. And that's exactly what they are. So some of the oldest firms in town, the people have long since passed and they've gone, but they keep them there as legacies. You bring additional partners up inside the firm, you just don't change the name of the firm.